So let me do a couple things, if you don't mind, before I get started. First, I just start down some sugar so I can really get up. I guess we're going to do that. Second, let me say Chevalier. Chevy, please. I would never be called Chevy if I named it Chevalier. I would just go with Chevalier. I would come with a whole persona, and people would respect me for that. So, but he likes Chevy. I would go with Chevalier. So, the other thing I need to do is to remind you that I'm here to celebrate, and I'm a Southerner. And celebrations in the South come with food. We've had that. Thank you very much. The other, they come with a beverage. Mine is the nectar of the gods, and that would be Diet Coca-Cola. Oh, that's good. That's good. That's a good one. I can't figure out where I can put this thing. Somebody's watching. Now, let me get to the remarks. I'm trying not to completely lose my mind. It is still this afternoon, so good afternoon. It is absolutely great to be here with you in Indianapolis. For this, the 75th anniversary of the activation of the Heroes of the Night, the Fighting 99. Now, I say that right now, and most of you don't really know what that means. That means you have not cyber-stalked them like I have. Cyber-stalked them like I have, you would have the following things in your possession. The 99th Pursuit Squadron fight song. How many have ever heard? Okay. So you can join me at any point. We are the heroes of the night. To hell with the Axis might. Fight, 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 fight. Fight, the fight. There you go. I'm pumped up. And as I looked at these words, they're pretty amazing. And apparently there's some drinking involved once they get further. Because they do have drink up, drink your cup. To those daring men, flying torch of flame, oh God. Probably needed that at that point. Red, white, and blue, amen. There's other lines in here that I think are quite good. Contact joystick back, sailing through the blue. Gallant sons of the 99th, brown men true, tried and true. We are the heroes of the night. To hell with the Axis might. Fight, 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 fight. That's pretty good, isn't it? And what an amazing opportunity I have to be here with you today to share in that celebration. Chevy, thanks for not doing the long introduction. I appreciate it because when the long ones happen, and at this stage in my career, they're all long. After 34 years of service, there's no longer faking a short introduction. But the only one that typically believes those introductions anymore is my mother. Of 33 years, doesn't quite buy the same reverence for me that I would like her to have. And she would have probably written it a little differently. Darren McDew, pretty good guy, good father, needs to do more around the house. So, I have had the pleasure of sitting next to Major General Irene Charles Harris. And let me tell you, I also cyber-stalked her. If you have not, you need to. You need to understand she is one of the reasons that we all get to be here and achieve the things that we get to achieve. And it is a pleasure, ma'am, to be with you. General Bodie, General Leon Johnson, who's led this organization for nearly six years. Thank you for giving of your service. Airmen Incorporated, ladies and gentlemen, and then why I'm really here. The true American heroes, our Tuskegee Airmen. It is a pleasure to join you here today, and there are no words to convey to you what I'm feeling right now. I am honored, and even more humbled. I am anxious. I have driven my staff absolutely crazy from the moment I got this invitation. Why? Well, first, because I'm not a paid public speaker. And you'll find that out very shortly. Second, because at long last, much has been published about the Tuskegee Airmen experience. There are movies, there are books, there are countless YouTube tributes. I keep asking myself, what could you possibly add to this discussion? I am nobody's historian. Then it finally hit me. I have spoken about my heroes many times, but I'm truly humbled to be speaking to my heroes today. This is the best way I can. And I turn to my heroes right now and I say, all of you, because of you, I serve. Because of you, I serve as a leader in the world's most capable joint force. A joint force that's heavily engaged around the world. I have been trained to fly aircraft because of you. I have been trained to make complex decisions involving large organizations and to lead because of you. To lead men and women willing to voluntarily put themselves into harm's way. To lead men and women that have taken an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And yes, to lead America's sons and daughters, and sisters and brothers who courageously disregard personal safety and risk their family's future to benefit others. To lead people as they defend the promises of the American dream and help extend the hopes of freedom, prosperity, and the pursuit of happiness around the world. Because of you. I'm a 4-star general and one of only 9 combatant commanders today because you dared to dream. You faced injustice with courage. You conquered stereotypes and racism with discipline and excellence. Thank you for showing us the way. For all of us who chose the road not taken or the path less traveled, those of us who took an oath to uphold the laws of the land and to serve under our nation's ideals, your example means even more. You, our Tuskegee Airmen, allowed us to evolve. Your stories give us pride. Your stories still give us courage. Your stories give us strength. Thank you again for showing us that way. Dr. Roscoe C. Brown, Jr. said, dreams do not get fulfilled by just thinking about them. Dreams get fulfilled by doing something. We are here today because the Tuskegee Airmen, our Tuskegee Airmen, followed their dreams and did something about it. Simply put. Now, the theme of the conference is Beyond Expectations. I think that's right. Okay, good. I like it when I get the theme right. Expectations, if you look it up, are a strong belief that something will happen. Well, no one other than you expected you to succeed, let alone set a new standard. But you went beyond those expectations and proved it is attributes and skill sets and not the person's skin color that defines them. You are an inspiration to every generation, and we need to ensure our message, your message, is taught to future generations. It's hard to believe if you think about it. Less than 50 years ago, our United States of America had separate drinking fountains for whites and blacks, colored balconies in movie theaters, and soldiers called out to protect little children who were just trying to go to school. Sometimes we get caught up in powerful images in America, and far too many people are excluded from the American dream. Then, and in some places today, racism continues. So how did I get here? Well, one, you showed me the way, as I will say over and over again. The Supreme Court decision in 1954 to ban segregation in public schools had already started to benefit me. The Department of Defense in the schools I attended in Germany and France were in compliance with the law of the land. Skin color may have been an impediment to learning back in the United States, but I was not getting separate but equal in Germany. I was just getting equal. Things were a little different. You see, overseas, I was just Darren. When I returned to my family, my dad's assignment at Langley Air Force Base in Virginia in the 60s, I became colored. Everywhere except on the Air Force Base. On the base, I could be part of integrated youth sports or do anything I wanted to do that MWR had to offer. All the recreational facilities were available to me. This wasn't the case at my neighborhood pool. But our Air Force was one of the first to integrate, so I had a refuge. Our military went through a lot, and a lot has changed since 1948, a little over 68 years ago when President Truman signed Executive Order 9981. This order was a direct result of the efforts of our Tuskegee Airmen. Because in 1941, the United States War Department announced the formation of the Fighting 99 to be trained at the Tuskegee Institute in Alabama. Thus, ironically, the Tuskegee Airmen were conceived, partitioned in a separate and less than equal unit. They could not shake the discriminatory culture which codified their very existence. No one expected them to succeed. They were just eager to fly, fight, and win for their country. However, they couldn't even get off the ground unless their government would change the standards of discrimination that created the Tuskegee Airmen in the first place. We are extremely honored to celebrate true heroes from World War II. Their exploits have been impressive and well documented, and based strictly on their merits, they have placed at long last in history's spotlight. To hell with the Axis money. Consider these eye-watering facts. 179 bomber escort missions, only 7 missions where any bombers were lost. That total was less than 6 other units combined. The Tuskegee Airmen, our American patriots, quickly did all of this without modern heads-up displays, stealth technology, heat-seeking missiles. They had jets and skill. One Tuskegee Airman was quoted as saying, "The antidote to racism is excellence. You showed us the way. Your combat legacy is amazing. Just like Jackie Robinson, you performed magnificently against the odds, and you moved the conscience of a nation, and the president ultimately, and Truman had to sign that executive order, and change would begin." In the 50-some-odd years, and we won't go into the exact numbers, that I've been on the earth, African Americans have suffered and struggled and endured a lot. And that journey is not yet over. We have not yet reached the mountaintop. However, it's important to look back and see where we've been if we want to know where we're going. But it's equally to see just how far we have come. The Tuskegee Airmen are directly responsible for how we've come over the last 75 years. Today, we have African American leaders carrying on their legacy throughout industry. We are completing the last year of 2 terms of our first African American. There are 42 African American general and flag officers in the military, far too few. There are 44 African American members in the Senate and Congress. Still too few, but much better. We've come a long way in 75 years, but there's still work to do. You have shown us the way, though. We have no excuses to not get there. But what's next? How do we keep the Tuskegee Airmen flame for the next 75-plus years? We can't just accept where we are today. We need to continue to look for the disruptive influences that will impede the progress of equality. Now more than ever, this nation needs your voice and your ideas. This organization, TAI, has been very successful to this point. Successful organizations are ones that don't accept the status quo, but look to ways to grow, mature, and evolve. Now let me give you an example, a contemporary example of what I'm talking about. How many of you, if I were to ask you, have a Blockbuster card in your pocket? You have a beta in your house too?
Randy, was that Randy?
But if you can remember back, and some of you that don't know about this, ask your neighbor. There was a time in our country's DNA where if we had a weekend, before you went home, you stopped by Blockbuster. If it was a long weekend, you walked out with a stack of tapes about this high. You went in hoping to get some of the top 4 or 5 movies. You never got them. Because they had about 3 copies of the first top 2 or 3, 50 copies of something you didn't want to watch. But you still went home with something. It was part of the fact. You couldn't imagine not doing it. Blockbuster knew this. Blockbuster made most of their money off of rewind fees and late fees. I'm not kidding, it's documented. And they charged you to rewind, although they had a machine behind their desk that rewound fast as anything. Yeah. They could have done it in seconds, but they charged you because they could. They weren't paying attention to their disruptive influence, and when a company came to them, when they first started to want to mail things to your house, a small company came to them and said, let us handle that for you. That company was called Netflix. They said, go away, we got this. They had an opportunity, I'm told, to buy Netflix for almost pennies on the dollar. They said, we got this, we own this country. We know what we're doing. We don't need to change. Where are they now? Netflix has evolved to not only shipping things to your house at first, to then streaming video, to now content. They have seen some disruptive influences for themselves, and they evolved. So what does evolution look like for us? What disruptive influences might be in our path? And we don't want to be blockbustered. I made that word up myself. We need to look to the future and continue to find ways to spread the message of the Tuskegee Airmen. People need to remember what made the Tuskegee Airmen who they are and learn from that. The Tuskegee Airmen were born from the desire to serve. Let me say it again. They were born from the desire to serve. They were just like every other American of the day and wanted to fight for freedom and the American way of life. They were bold. They were courageous. They were risk takers, willing to endure personal hardship for the greater good. When things got tough, they worked harder. They worked harder. Benjamin O. Davis, Jr., General of the United States Air Force, said, "The privileges of being American belong to those brave enough to fight for them." It was because of their courage, their patriotism, and their fight for excellence that we're here today. Not just because they look good and flexy, but they did. We need to honor them, not just by telling their story, but by following their lead, by inspiring others to want to learn. No one inspired me to fly. I was inspired to learn. And not just to learn about things I enjoyed, but to enjoy the things I learned. We have got to spend more time in the air. We need to teach the Tuskegee Airmen's example of courage in the face of tremendous adversity and how to stand up to it. We need to show how a patriotic spirit shines through everything, and we need to inspire a spirit of excellence. The American journey is not perfect, but the pursuit of the wonder and glory of human freedom and opportunity, regardless of sex or race, is worth some sacrifice. Our airmen shed their blood. Our airmen shed their treasure to show us the way. There are many remarkable individuals within this organization that have devoted their lives to mentorship, training, and preparation of our up-and-coming professionals. Leaders, not here today, like Teresa Clayton. Teresa was the first African-American female to become an Air Force pilot and a friend of mine. She, like the Tuskegee Airmen did for African-American men, she opened the door for African-American women on her. The Tuskegee Airmen gave her the opportunity by dreaming 75 years earlier. Of course, another leader I'm extremely proud of is soon-to-be Lieutenant General Stacey Harris. On the 26th of August in Washington, D.C., I will have the privilege of promoting her to 3-star and to be the first African-American female 3-star in the history of the United States Air Force. Our airmen, your legacy is extended again. A couple of thoughts before I walk away. Some things that I've gained through learning and leading and living for 50 plus years on this planet. In the end, success is up to you. It's about the content of your character. It's not about who you are. It's about who you're determined to be. It's not about where you come from. It's about where you're determined to go. It's about the freedom to dream big dreams, the freedom to work hard and achieve, and the freedom to believe and succeed. Thank you, Airmen, for showing us the way. So right now, join me and raise your glasses. Might as well end with the song too. Drink up, drink your cup to those daring men, flying torch of flame. And remember, oh God, it's all about the red, white, and blue. Amen. Amen. Thank you very much.